Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So wanted to talk about a topic that came up yesterday on our live stream, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Sunday. So make sure you check us out. This topic came up with a conversation that I had with our one of our subscribers that always calls into the show, Terence. So shout out to Terence, Best Damn Videos. And one of the things that he brought up when he called in was Terence Crawford and whether or not he would be TBE if he became 3-time undisputed and went up to 168 pounds and defeated Canelo Alvarez. Now, of course, that implies a lot of ifs. I do believe that it's possible, certainly, that Terence Crawford can become 3-time undisputed because he's well positioned to win those titles at 154 pounds currently. But I think it's still a stretch to say that he's going to get the opportunity to face Canelo Alvarez. But you know, we went back and forth when we talked about this yesterday, and I just wanted to bring it to the masses in one of our videos to get you guys' thoughts. We also have a poll up currently, so go check out that poll and give us your thoughts there as well. But so when Terence brought this up, he used wins over Errol Spence, Jermell Charlo, and Canelo Alvarez. Now, as it currently stands, Jermell Charlo is a champion in recess, so he doesn't necessarily have to go through Jermell Charlo to become undisputed. But we're going to throw Jermell Charlo's name in there anyway because that was the argument from yesterday. So based off of his logic, Terence Crawford would have 3 Hall of Famers on his resume. Those Hall of Famers would be Errol Spence, Jermell Charlo, as well as Canelo Alvarez. Now, we know by their own admission, and by they, I mean Terence Crawford fans, that supposedly Errol Spence is not a Hall of Famer. That came out of Terence Crawford's mouth. That came out of Terence Crawford's fans' mouth, that Errol Spence is not a Hall of Famer. So I don't know why now that argument is being used for Errol Spence in favor of Errol Spence being a Hall of Famer. So 1 minute he's a bum, he's this, he's not that good. And the next minute he's a Hall of Famer that they want to give Terence Crawford credit for. But you know what? We're going to do that anyway. And the comparison was against fighters like Sugar Ray Leonard and Floyd Mayweather. So let's think about this for a second. TBE. When we're talking about the greatest of all time, there's a lot of nuances, right? In any sport, when you start to talk about that, right? You start to nitpick things, right? And specifically in boxing, what you accomplish and who you accomplished it against is very important, specifically in boxing, right? And so he called TBE. Typically, TBE is going to include everyone in every weight class, but he wanted to just keep it at, I guess, 140, 147, 154, that kind of range, right? So that's fine. So the 2 fighters that come to mind at that weight class that I would say would have a claim to be in TBE would be Floyd Mayweather, of course. We call Floyd TBE, and Floyd called himself TBE, and Sugar Ray Leonard. So he wanted to compare Hall of Famers, and I wanted to compare Hall of Famers as well because that was the benchmark as far as I'm concerned, right? Who did you beat, right? Who did you beat to get all these accomplishments? So when you think about Terence Crawford, there is no one on his resume currently that is in the Hall of Fame. So we're making the assumption that Errol Spence will make it to the Hall of Fame. And that's okay. We can make that assumption that Jermell Charlo will make it to the Hall of Fame and that Canelo Alvarez will make it to the Hall of Fame. So Canelo's a lock. So, but we're going to give him all 3. When you compare that to Sugar Ray Leonard, so you're giving Terence Crawford 3 Hall of Famers. Sugar Ray Leonard has 5 Hall of Famers on his resume. Hector Mancho Camacho, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Tommy the Hitman Hearns, Wilfred Benitez, and Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran. 5 Hall of Famers in an era where these gentlemen actually fought each other to prove that they were the best in the division at that time. So that is a stacked resume. When you talk about Hall of Famers, just stacked. And then he has other people on his resume that wouldn't be Hall of Famers, but were really good fighters during that time. So, that next, tier down. Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather has 7 Hall of Famers on his resume. I got to try to remember all of them. He has Miguel Cotto, Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya, Shane Mosley, Juan Manuel Marquez, Who else does Floyd have on his? Arturo Gatti and Floyd and Canelo Alvarez. Canelo would be the 7th because if we're going to give Terence Crawford Canelo Alvarez, then we're going to give Floyd Mayweather the same. So you got one guy that has 7 Hall of Famers on his resume. He's beaten, I think Floyd had beaten 25 world champions or something like that. And you got another Hall of Famer in Sugar Ray Leonard that has 5 Hall of Famers on his resume. And yet somehow, because Terence Crawford became undisputed, he will be TBE. Now, I get it. We want to give Terence Crawford a lot of credit for becoming 3-time undisputed, but you still got to look at who he did it against. At 140 pounds, we won't remember any of those fighters in 10 years. We won't. I don't even remember who Delermy was one of them. Who else was it? I have to go look it up right now because I don't recall at the moment. But again, that's what I'm telling you. I don't even recall right now. In 10 years, certainly we won't remember who he beat to become undisputed at 140. Who did he beat to become undisputed at 147? Jeff Horn and Errol Spence. So the only recognizable name that we'll remember in 10 years is Errol Spence. What about at 54? We won't remember Madrimov if he beats Madrimov. If Fundora ends up beating Errol Spence, we probably won't remember Fundora in 10 years. I mean, we'll remember him, but we won't be remembered as like a great, great fighter. And then I don't recall who's the IBF champion right now, but certainly he will not move the needle either. So if we do give him credit for Jermell Charlo, that's fine, but he doesn't have to fight Jermell Charlo to become undisputed. And then if he beats Canelo Alvarez, he got Canelo on his name or on his resume. So 2 of your runs, you've only faced like 1 Hall of Famer, and then out of 140, 47, and 54, you'll only had fought 1 Hall of Famer to get those 3 titles. The rest of the guys are no-name guys by the time it's all said and done. And Errol Spence will be that one recognizable name that you beat for the titles to become undisputed. And then you'd have Canelo, using this hypothetical, if he were to become the 54 undisputed and move up and beat Canelo Alvarez. And you compare that to the resume of Sugar Ray Leonard and Floyd Mayweather, I'm sorry, guys. There's no comparison when it relates to Terence Crawford being TBE. I get it. It's a hell of an accomplishment. It'll be an accomplishment that no one else has done before. But it feels very LeBron James-ish in that we're creating these new metrics to try to measure greatness, right? To try to measure who is the greatest, right? With like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was not considered the greatest player of all time, and he had the record for most points throughout their career. And all of a sudden, that metric now makes LeBron James the greatest player ever. How? When it didn't make Kareem the greatest player ever. So it is what it is. Personally, Terence Crawford, if you want to argue that Terence Crawford would be in the top 10, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. There can possibly be an argument against it as well. And this is not hate. This is just, these are numbers, man. Like 7 Hall of Famers on a resume, 5 Hall of Famers on a resume versus potentially 3 on a resume. It's simple. It's very simple. So you guys tell me what you think in the comment section in regards to this. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, L Sports Media, and I am out.